Hello, well, we'll get started this afternoon. So sitting up nice and tall, shoulders over the hips, ears over the shoulders. You need to shrug the shoulders up and relax them down and back. That's an option. We'll find a nice tall spine. So ribs lifting up off the hips. And exaggerate just a few breaths into the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. As you sit up nice and tall, just finding your breath here this afternoon. Exaggerated inhale, just as deep as is comfortable, and an exaggerated exhale, you can let the navel draw in and up to help squeeze the stale air out of the lungs. Just noticing movement through your body as you breathe. Maybe the gentle movement to the chest and shoulders, maybe very subtle movement to the clavicle and upper back. As you breathe, just noticing if the breath is smooth and even. It's a challenge to find a deep inhale. As you start to find your natural rhythm, just noticing the body tightness or openness, if you feel fatigued, relaxed, or energized. Noticing where your focus is, if that's to the breath, if the mind's kind of racing or wandering along. Just as best you can as you move through your practice, try to keep focus to your breath, maybe the movement of the ribs as you breathe, maybe the length of your exhale. Take about 4 more deep breaths here. With the abdominal wall and the obliques help to hold you up. We don't need to tighten up to the lower back. Keeping the spine long, the shoulders down, reach the fingertips out to the sides, and you can use flat hands, tented fingers. Just maybe trying to feel a stretch to the arms as you reach out. Whenever you're ready on the exhale, drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. Try not to jet the chin out in front, but keep the back of the neck long. A little bit of yes, a little bit of no, whatever you need across the back and sides of the neck as you breathe. Try to keep the shoulders from collapsing forward. A gentle lift of the chest, a gentle lift of the ribs up off the hips. Once again, any kind of movement you need to add here as you breathe. When you're ready on the inhale, just coming right back up to center. Readjusting as much as you need to, and on your next exhale, left ear, left shoulder. Same thing, keep the back of the neck long. A little bit of movement to the head and neck if you need it. A few breaths here. Ribs are lifting away from the hip points. Shoulders down and back. Last breath. If you're ready on the inhale, right back up to center. Gazing to the right as much as is comfortable. So once again, we don't want the chin to jet out, but keep the back of the neck long, the gentle lift of the chest, and on the exhale, gazing over your right shoulder. You need to lift and drop the chin just a little bit. That's up to you. You can close the eyes here if you'd like to make things a little more relaxed. Right back to center on the inhale. On the exhale, opposite side, we'll gaze over the left shoulder. Once again, keep the back of the neck long. Gazing around or closing the eyes, the tendency is to kind of push the shoulder forward, but keep the gentle lift of the chest. Maintain length of your spine, and when you're ready on the inhale, it comes back to center nice and tall. And keep the hands where they are if you'd like. If you need to move them a little bit, that's up to you. We're just going to drop the chin towards the clavicle. So we're not jetting the chin out towards the chest, but try to tuck the chin just a little bit, just whatever's comfortable across the back of the neck. Sweeping the chin along the clavicle or from side to side, ears from shoulder to shoulder. If you find a really tight spot, you can pause there and breathe for just a moment. Just be careful the shoulders aren't collapsing, aren't rounding the spine, but a gentle lift of the chest, lifting the ribs still up off the hip points. 2 more breaths. On the inhale, back up to center. Use your hands to support the back of the head. If you'd rather have the hands on the neck, that's fine. Just lift the chin here a little bit. Once again, as little or as much support as you need. You can use the hands to move the head and neck around. We'll take about 4 breaths here. Once again, we don't want to round, but think about lifting ribs up off the hip points. Gentle lift of the chest. If you'd rather bring your elbows towards one another, that can open across the back of the shoulders. When you're ready, just lifting the head back up. Relaxing the arms down to the sides. So into a lateral stretch, we want to, once again, maintain the lift of the ribs up off the hip points. So go ahead and bring your right hand down to the floor on the inhale, up and over through the left fingertips. We want to lift the ribs up off the hip points. You can walk the fingertips out a little bit. You can bend at the elbow. If you want to gaze up past the palm, that's an option. Just a few deep breaths here. And you move the head and neck once again. If you'd like to exaggerate a couple of breaths while you're here, that's perfect. Relaxing the left leg. So we want to try to maintain the openness of the chest. We're going to keep the shoulder right where it is. And on the exhale, bring the bicep down in front of the face. And don't let the chest collapse or come forward. On your inhale, let the knuckles move back out behind you. Full range of motion for the shoulder girdle. Exhale, down and around. Inhale as the knuckles move back. Just whatever's comfortable for your shoulder movement here. And if you need to, as you breathe through, you can always bring fingertips to the shoulder. 2 more big circles here, whether your arm is extended or the arm is bent. Abs and obliques will gently squeeze on your exhale to lift the body back up. I'm going to take the legs out in front. Just hop out the hamstrings here for a moment. If you need any movements across the back, that's up to you. We're just going to do the same thing on the other side. So just put the opposite leg on front or on top. Lift the ribs up off the hips, shoulders down the back, and we'll extend the left arm out to the side, right arm up. Lift the ribs up off the hips, shoulders down and back. Try to keep your chest open. You can bend at the elbow or walk the arm out. As long as the shoulder doesn't shrug, as long as you don't twist forward to the shoulder. Block here if you need it. We'll breathe. Gazing up wherever is comfortable. Maybe the right leg relaxes. Try not to tighten up or tense up to the lower back. And any movements of the head and neck that are appropriate here as you breathe. Just try to keep your left shoulder strong so we aren't collapsing. Movements into the shoulder girdle once again. Chest stays open, and on an exhale, bicep down by the ear. On the inhale, knuckles can move back to open across the chest. Exhale down and around. And once again, if you need to bring fingertips to the shoulder, it'll take a lot of pressure off the shoulder itself. Just not exaggerate the movements as much. Just a couple more here with the breath. Exhale down and around. Inhale back up to the top, and we're going to pause right here. And on an exhale, let the abs and the obliques gently squeeze as we push back up to center. Just going to take the right leg out in front. So from here, we're going to twist, and you can either bring the foot to the inside edge of the leg. If you're stepping across, that's an option. We just don't want to be rounded over, but maintaining length as we go. So our primary focus is lifting the ribs up off the hip points, shoulders down the back. Inhale tall, and on the exhale, begin to twist around. And you can gaze over the shoulder. Just thinking about keeping the chest open as you breathe. If you would like to close the eyes, it'll make this a little more relaxed. Try to not tense up across the lower part of the back. Last deep breath here. Maintaining length. When you're ready on the inhale, we're just going to let the head come around last, hold to center. Switch your legs out. So you can have the right heel into the pelvis, or you can step it across, whatever feels best. Try not to push the back out, but let your twist be all about length, regardless of where your foot is. You can still lift the ribs up off the hips. So find your length. We're not tightening up the lower back, but the abs and the obliques are creating length. And on the exhale, twisting around, gazing over the right shoulder or closing the eyes. So again, allowing your focus to be keeping the chest open and lifted as you breathe. Shoulders down and back. Need to exaggerate a few breaths here, that's an option. The same thing here, when you're ready on the inhale, let the head come around last, hold the center. Taking the legs out, any movement to the hamstrings once again. That's our lateral movement and our twisting. So for our forward fold and our back bend, we're going to go ahead and bring the legs out in front. If you need to roll up a blanket in behind your knees or a block behind your knees, that's perfect. If you'd rather bring the soles of the feet together, this will also open up into the lower back and hips so we can pull some pressure off the hamstrings and the lower back. So whatever you decide here, find some length on the inhale. On the exhale, start to come forward with a neutral spine as best you can, a little bit of side to side. You might not make it very far before you have to round, and that's fine. Hands for support. You can tuck the chin or just relax the head and neck. Any movement to the head and neck you need to add here. If you keep the elbows in tight, help you to kind of stretch the back a little bit, especially if you're adding some movement. Arms out in front will tend to pull you down towards the thighs with a more neutral spine. That'll put more of the stretch into the backs of the legs. Hands off to either sides of the foot. You can hit a little bit of IT band as you go. Take about 4 more breaths here. Try to exaggerate a couple of breaths just to get a little bit of a lift of the body. Long, smooth exhale as best you can. Take a couple of normal breaths. Just find movement into the bottom set of ribs and the ribs below the armpits here as you inhale and exhale. Hands for support on the next in-breath. You can walk the hands in all the way up to a neutral spine. Hands to the backs of the legs or the thighs to bring the feet in. We'll go ahead and come around to the hands and knees for just a moment. Hands under the shoulders with the pointer middle finger forward. Knees dropping out, the hips about hip width apart. You want your feet to disappear behind your thighs. Find a comfortable spot with your hands. We don't want to bring the shoulders up and forward, but we want the shoulders down and back as you press the chest away from the floor. Just a few cat-cows here. On the inhale, pull the chest forward. And this isn't the lower back tensing up. This is the abs and the obliques helping to pull the ribs away from the hip points as you rotate the pelvis forward. And on the exhale, gently lift up to the bottom set of ribs. If you'd like to tuck the chin here a little bit, that's an option. You can even push into the floor. Inhaling. To reduce compression on the spine, you can drop hips back to the heels on the inhale. To get a little more stretch into the lower back, you can drop hips back to the heels on the exhale. Just a couple more here just to get some movement into the body after our forward fold before we find our back bend here. Neutral spine, we're going to come all the way down to the stomach, however is comfortable here for you. Hands on either sides of the eyes, and we'll come up to elbows up under the shoulders. So if you'd like to bring one hand each elbow, that's fine. Palms gently pushing together, palms flat to the floor if you'd like. We just don't want to shrug up and forward, but try to maintain length of the body. You can have heels in, toes out, which will externally rotate the thigh. If you'd rather find toes in, heels out, that'll internally rotate. Just whatever feels most comfortable across your lower back, whatever gives you the best stretch. If you don't know which one to do, maybe feet flat. We'll take about 4 or 5 breaths here. Gentle movement you can add. If you want to gaze to the right a little bit, gazing to the left a little bit. Just keep your neck long. We don't want to jut the chin out. We want to maintain length across the back of the neck, even if that means you're tucking the chin a little bit. Exaggerating a couple of breaths here if you'd like. And you can come down whenever you need to. We'll take 2 or 3 more exaggerated breaths. When you're ready, we're going to let the chest start to come down towards the floor. And you can let your elbows come out to the sides a little bit. You can drape the chest back down. Bending the knees and walking the legs back together. Rocking the heels from side to side. Hands by your lower set of ribs or wherever is comfortable for you. We're just going to return back to our table position. Any kind of movements you need into the lower back. When you're ready, stepping the right foot up between the hands. So if you need a blanket underneath of your left knee, that's perfect. We can use blocks here underneath of your hands if that's more appropriate. Tinted fingers if you'd like. And it doesn't matter if the top of the foot is to the floor or if you want to keep the toes curled under here, that's fine as well. Whatever's comfortable to keep the back of the neck long. A gentle gaze over the right shoulder will draw the left hip forward and down just a bit here if you'd like. Exaggerating a few breaths once again. Think about keeping the right foot pushing down. If you feel your hips kind of engage a little bit, that's perfect. We want a strong left shoulder, so we're pushing the left hand down into the floor. So this is going to move into the shoulder girdle and from the base of the skull down into the lower part of the spine. If you want to gaze at your right thumb, you can watch your thumb move around as best you can. Once again, try to keep the shoulder down and back. Gazing at your right thumb. On the inhale, reach out and over. Rotate the body open, and on the exhale, you can let the arm come down with the bottom set of ribs. Strong left shoulder. Inhale to the top. Exhale as you bring the hand down. Just a couple more big circles here. Once again, strong left shoulder as you breathe. Exhaling the hand down. Pull the chest forward on the inhale. On the exhale, gently shift the hips back towards a half split. So if you need to keep a bend to the knee, that's perfect. You can bring the hands in if you need the extra support. It doesn't matter if your spine is up a little further or if you choose to stay a little lower. We'll take about 4 more breaths here. You can tuck the chin. You can gaze forward. We just don't want the chin jutting out, but try to maintain length across the back of your neck. When you're ready on the inhale, we'll shift forward once again. Toes can curl under. Go ahead and take your knees back. Any kind of movements to the lower spine, and eventually when you're ready, we can start to step the left foot forward, and you can use a hand for support as much as you need to. Rocking gently from side to side, sliding the right knee back if you'd like. You can use blankets here under the knees, blocks into the hands once again. Gentle gaze over the left shoulder will help to draw your right hip forward and down. Breathe. Push down to your left foot. It's going to have to keep the thigh in towards the body and not flopping out to the side. Strong right shoulder. Bring the gaze to the left thumb. Keep the neck long. We don't want to, once again, drop the chin out, but try to keep length across the back of the neck. On the inhale, we'll watch the thumb come up and around. On the exhale, down with the ribs. Keep the right shoulder strong. Inhaling up. Exhaling as we come back down. Your pace, your breath. Try to keep the ribs moving up off the hips. Last big circle. Exhaling the hand down and around. Once you've found your lunge again, pull the chest forward on the inhale. On the exhale, start to slide the hips back once again. At knees, heels or toes pushing out whatever's comfortable. Remember, you can adjust with the hands as much as you need to as you come in, or keep the hands out. Try to keep the back of the neck long so we aren't dropping the head or jutting out to the chin, but we're maintaining some kind of length here. Breathe. Maybe exaggerating a couple breaths once again. On your inhale, you can begin to come forward. On the exhale, we'll bring the feet back. Down dog. Just push the hips up and back here for a moment. You can keep the heels lifted and the knees bent as much as you need. So we don't want to shrug the shoulders and collapse, but we want to scoop the arms in and think about being open across your upper spine. You can drop the head and neck. You can tuck the chin here a little bit. The focus is a neutral spine and not how straight you can get the legs. If you'd like to let the heels come down a little further, that's up to you. Finding your breath here. Back to the right leg. We'll go ahead and bring the right foot up between the hands. If you need to drop to the left knee first, that's fine. If you'd like to pull the knee towards the face, we can bring the right foot up, dropping the left knee to the floor. Hands to the inside edge of the foot. If you'd like to bring blocks to the hands here, that's perfect. A blanket under the knee will work. Any rocking of the hips from side to side you need to do. So 2 options here. If you'd like to have blocks for the forearms, that's your choice. We'll bring the left elbow down and then the right. So the further you come out away from your foot, the more space you're going to have. The closer you come into the foot, the more challenging this is going to be. Try to push down into your right foot a little bit just to hug the thigh in towards the ribs. If you want to stay here, that's fine. If you'd like to push into the forearms, think about the abs and the obliques lifting the ribs here slightly. We can lift the left leg up off the left knee up off the floor. Keep the leg straight and strong if you're lifting the knee. We'll take a few breaths here, keeping the back of the neck long. Finding movement to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs as you inhale and exhale. Don't collapse and let the shoulders come forward, but keep the scapula or the shoulder blades flat against the upper back. So this is your option. If you need to drop the knee back down, that's fine. We're going to take the right hand, that's the side of most resistance, and then up to the left hand. Back into the foot. We'll step the foot back. If you need to drop the knees, any kind of movements to the hips and thighs from here, that's up to you. When you're ready, we'll take the left foot forward. So from here, we can drop the knee, hands to the inside edge of the foot. Any rocking of the hips from side to side here initially. Doing the same thing to the hips and thighs as we did to the shoulders and upper back. Blocks here if you'd like. So our 2 options, relaxed or active. And you can use blocks, relaxed or active, blankets, however you need to. Right elbow or forearm to the floor or block. Left elbow or forearm to the floor or block. If you need to make more space, that's your option. If it comes a little tighter, that's fine. Gentle pressure into the left foot, just enough to keep the thigh hugging up against the body. If you want to stay here, you can just add your movement and breathe. If you want to lift the back knee up, that's up to you. Strong leg. Your pace, your breath. Try not to jet the chin up, but keep the neck long. So maybe you're gazing at the backs of the hands, the floor. If you need to tuck the chin a little bit, that's an option as well. Your breath. So from here, as you breathe, find your movement to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. You need to drop the knee, that's an option. Left hand to the floor, right hand to the floor. Find your lunge, and we're just going to exhale into down dog. So distance between hands and feet for high plank is going to be perfect for our down dog as well. And when you're ready, hips up and back towards the heels. You need to widen the hands or the feet, that's always an option here. 3 breaths. Forward on the inhale. Dropping to the knees if you need to. We're just going to find an exhale down to the chest. And then a low cobra. Tops of the feet push down so much your knees may lift up off the floor. Squeeze the glutes to anchor the pelvis down. Abs and the obliques up to pull your chest forward. So the elbows are reaching back. We don't want them forward. We want the shoulders down away from your ears. You need to tuck the chin and gaze at the floor. That's an option. If you're gazing forward, just don't let the chin jut out, but maintain length. 3 breaths. Keep the abs, the obliques, the glutes engaged here, or supporting the body. And on your exhale, down dog once again. Take the knees initially if you need to, hips up and back. And at any point in time, you can drop the knees to the floor. At any point in time, you can drop forearms to the floor if that's going to be better for your body here this afternoon. Once you're ready, everyone will drop into child's pose. Hips to the heels, chest to the thighs, rounding your spine. Take about 4 breaths here. Exaggerating a couple of breaths. Finding movement into the rib cage. We'll come up into pigeon. When you're ready, from where you are, go ahead and take your left knee and we'll draw it forward up by your left wrist, and you can let the right knee slide back. If you'd like the heel to come out from underneath of the pelvis here a little bit, that's an option. We just want to have a nice even hip here from the floor. So we don't want to be resting on the outside. So if you need a blanket or a pillow or anything rolled up underneath of your left thigh, that's perfect. If you look back, your right leg should be more or less parallel with the right side of the mat. Lift the ribs on the exhale, a little bit of rocking from side to side, and we can start to come down to the floor, maybe forearms down. If you want to relax the head and neck, that's an option. You can bring the forehead to the backs of the hands if you'd like. And staying right here in your pigeon, breathing, no tension to the jaw. Exaggerate once again, 1 or 2 breaths. Maybe you can find movement to the chest and shoulders from here. For just a moment, coming up to your forearms and a little bit of rocking from side to side. You can bring the left hand to the floor and lift the left shoulder. A couple of breaths. Just try not to collapse or shrug to the right shoulder, but we want that activity to maintain support into the upper back. Bring the left hand out in front of the knee, right hand to the floor, and we'll lift here into king pigeon a little bit. So we don't want to shrug or collapse, but we want to think about length. Even if you need elbows bent, you can use the arms out in front more if that keeps the pressure off your lower back. The closer in the hands go, the more we want to think about the abs and the obliques creating a lift, the more we want the glutes helping to support. You can even push down into the right leg to maintain support into your back. Gentle gaze to the left if you'd like. We haven't opened up too much into the quadricep and hip flexor, but if you would like, you can lift the right foot up off the floor, right hand back for heel toes or the ankle. That can be gazing back or forward, whatever's appropriate for your head and neck. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. When you're ready, we'll just let the leg come back down to the floor. So with as much control as you can, hands to the floor, and we'll come out of our pigeon. If you need to roll off to the left, that's an option. You can bring the body forward, lifting up to the ribs as you slide the left leg back, and any kind of cat-cows you need to do from there. When you're ready, we'll take the right knee and we'll slide it up towards the wrist, and we'll let the right heel come out from underneath the pelvis. And it doesn't matter how far out you come, just whatever you need to do to maintain that center position so you're not rolling off to the side. The hips are fairly even from the floor from side to side, and you can use blankets, blocks, whatever you need to underneath the hip and thigh. If you look back, your left leg is more or less parallel with the left side of the mat. On the exhale, any kind of rocking from side to side, a little bit of gaze to the right. Exaggerating a few breaths here if you'd like. Forearms to the floor when you're ready, or coming down to the elbows. A little bit of movement if you'd like. You can bring the forehead to the backs of the hands. Just try to prevent shrugging through the shoulders, but try to maintain a little bit of distance between the ears and shoulders. You need to add movement there. That's entirely up to you. Breathing from here. Once again, when you exaggerate a couple of breaths, noticing movement into the rib cage as you breathe. Relaxing the leg, the glutes, and the abs together. Coming up to the forearms once again, shoulders down the back. Maybe for you this is a little bit of shifting. If you want to bring the right hand to the floor, you can lift the right shoulder, maybe gazing up a little bit here. Once again, whatever movement's comfortable for your lower back. We're not shrugging shoulders, we're keeping the shoulders down and back. Breathing into the ribs. Move your right hand out in front of the knee if you'd like. I'm just going to come up to a king pigeon. Same variation as you did on the other side. If you want to keep the body more forward, that's perfect here. You can walk the hands in as close as you'd like. The closer you get to the hips, the more we need to think about the abs and the obliques lifting the ribs up off the hips, shoulders down the back. Maintaining length so we can reduce compression across the back. You can even push down to the foot here if you'd like to activate the leg. A few breaths. Gaze off to the left or the right, that's your option here. Another option, just like we did on the other side, maybe you're curling the toes under or lifting the foot up. If you'd like, you can reach the left hand back for heel toes or the ankle, whatever's appropriate here for you. You can gaze out behind you or forward, whatever you think is best. Same deep, even breaths here. When you're ready, we'll bring the foot back to the floor. Lots of control, so it's not smacking down, but as best you can. We're putting the foot down. You can roll off to the right if you need to. If you want to curl the toes under, shoulders down the back, ribs lift with the abs. We'll slide the other foot back. Knees down. Gentle cat-cows into the spine. Toes curled under or feet flat. We're just going to let the hips come back towards the heels, chest, the thighs for child's pose. If you're a little more lifted here, that's always an option. If you want wide knees or knees together, that's your option. And take about 4 breaths here. Hands for support, all the way back up. Come off the heels whenever you're ready. Coming around to the sits bones, however is comfortable for you. We'll just bring the hands to the thighs. We've got to tuck the chin towards the clavicle so we can come down nice and safe to the back. And any kind of side-to-side movement you need to do here. If you'd like to extend the legs for a few breaths, that's perfect. Any movements to the ankles that you feel like are appropriate, bent knees are fine here. Let the knees come down to the chest and reach the arms out to the sides. So just come into a gentle twist. So from here, feet to the floor, nice and wide. Knees to your left, and we'll gaze to the right. Exaggerating a few breaths here. Whenever you're ready. This is going to be an inhale or exhale. If you have lower back tension, you may want to think about an exhale to help push the back down as you come back to center. Readjusting as much as you need to on an exhale. We'll let knees float off to the right as we gaze left. You can relax the head and neck here as little or as much as you'd like, adjusting however you need to. Jaw relaxed, exaggerating a couple of breaths. Same thing here. You need to come up on an exhale, then actually squeeze the abs and the obliques and help to bring the lower back into a little bit longer position. Inhaling or exhaling, whatever's comfortable. Return to center. We're bringing the feet together as close together as is comfortable. So we don't want to pull the heels in too tight here as we lift into our bridge. We want to make sure the feet fall down to a natural spot. If we kept the heels in way too far, then when we lift up, it's going to push the knees out over the ankles. So let the feet come down to a comfortable spot. You can even put a block between your feet or your thighs to keep from opening the thighs here. Shoulder blades flat, arms to the sides, palms down. So the glutes will hug up against the back of the pelvis, abs and the obliques. Gentle lift to the bottom set of ribs, and it'll help to support the top of the pelvis. Gentle lift to the pelvic floor as we lift the tops of the thighs. Pelvis lifts. We want to push the weight from the feet up towards the shoulders as you breathe. If you need to roll up onto the forearms a little bit, that's fine. Maybe the hands are together under the body. If you want to bend your elbows, you can actively push down into the triceps. We just don't want the shoulders coming up. So as best you can, shoulders down the back. Even weight into your feet. We'll take 3 more breaths here. Full length of your exhale, slowly coming down. If you need to take a few breaths here, that's fine. We just want to keep the abs, the obliques, the glutes hugged up against the skeleton to come down safely. And if you need to, start from the top of your back and roll down 1 vertebra at a time, and that'll keep the lower part of the abdominal wall engaged as you drop. No hurry, but once your tailbone's down, you can draw the knees into the chest with a little bit of side-to-side movement. Straightening the legs out. We'll relax here for just a moment. So heels are just going to be a little bit wider than your hips so the toes can fall off to the side. They'll help to externally rotate the upper thigh. If you need a blanket behind your knees or anything, that's up to you. Supporting the neck, that's up to you. Palms up to the sky, a little wider than your shoulders so the shoulder blades are flat. You can rock the head from side to side to find the perfect spot across the back of the skull. So if you want to gaze at a spot on the ceiling, that's an option. If you'd like to close your eyes here, that's perfect. And as you breathe, try to draw your focus into the movement of the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs, just maintaining your breath. Exaggerating a few breaths whenever you need to find that movement. Jaws relaxed. As you inhale and exhale, as you notice the movement through your rib cage, you'll be noticing some subtle movement to the chest and shoulders as you breathe. Maybe subtle movements into the clavicle and upper back as you inhale and exhale. Continuing to maintain focus to your breath, noticing the body, relaxing the arches of the feet, the palms of the hands, the muscles around the belly button. On the exhale, maybe imagining the spine can relax a little further. Focusing on your breath. So when you inhale, the body expands. As you exhale, try to relax the body, maybe the arches of the feet, palms of the hands. If your mind starts to wander, you get distracted along the way, just continually pulling your focus back to your breath. Maybe that's your long, smooth exhale. Maybe for you, focus to the breath means the movement of the ribs as you breathe. At any point in time, exaggerating a few breaths to find that movement. The body tends to relax more on the exhale, so an exaggerated breath, you can allow for a long, smooth exhale. Maybe you can relax just a little bit further. Relaxing the arches of the feet, the palms of the hands, and the muscles around the belly button. Glutes, the abs, pelvic floor, and lower back relax together. 5 more deep, even breaths from here. Continually pulling focus back to your breath as you inhale and exhale. Finding movement into your bottom set of ribs, the ribs below your armpits. When you're ready, just subtle movements to the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Maybe bringing the feet to the floor, any kind of movements to the legs. Exaggerating a couple of breaths as we bring the knees towards the chest, side to side rocking. So traditionally, we roll over to the right side of the body just to lift the heart above the organs and the brain, whichever side feels most comfortable for you. If you'd like, right arm reaches up and will roll onto the right side of the body. A few breaths. Any movements you need. However is comfortable for your body, we just want to return to center. Sitting up nice and tall. Ribs lifting up off the hips, shoulders down the back. You can find a spot to gaze at or close the eyes here. Just taking a moment to notice subtle changes to the body. Maybe that's openness to the breath. Maybe for you that has more to do with focus. Openness to the body or fatigue even. But just noticing those subtle changes that you created here today. Subtle changes you can return to whenever you need to. Pausing to find the breath, appropriate posture as we move through the day. Your pace, your breath, especially when our practice ends. I know the light in you, that's the same light in me. Namaste. Well, thanks for joining me today, especially you at home. Have a good one.